Hi there, and welcome to Enterprise AI Innovators, a show where top technology executives share how AI is transforming the enterprise. In each episode, guests uncover the real-world applications of AI, from improving products and optimizing operations to redefining the customer experience. I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Sam Motamedi, a general partner at Greylock Partners.
Today on the show, we're bringing you a conversation with Sastry Durvasula, Chief Operating, Information, and Digital Officer at TIAA. Serving the investment and retirement needs of over 5 million customers, TIAA is a Fortune 500 financial services company with $40 billion of revenue and over $1 trillion in assets under management. In this conversation, Sastry shares his perspective on how AI enables large-scale transformation within a 100-year-old institution, why everyone should have a secure AI assistant, and the cultural components that will unlock the next wave of enterprise AI adoption. Do you mind just giving our audience a bit of a brief background, kind of you and your role and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, no, thanks, Evan. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be in an abnormal show, which is really fantastic. I lead the technology, globally, operations, shared services, digital and client experience at TIAA. So these are I call them the four legs of the stool. You know, tech, global operations, our digital and client experience, and our shared services, which constitutes almost half or more than half of our colleagues across the globe at TIAA. So that's the role that I have, and I have the privilege of leading a very large global team. So that's obviously, driving the mission of TIAA, which is to deliver lifetime income for millions of Americans. So that's my current role. Prior to coming here, I was the head of tech and digital at McKinsey as a partner, and before that, I was at global insurance broker Marsh & McLennan, where I was leading up digital analytics and data. And then before that, I had various CIO roles at American Express for 15 years. So that's my longest innings. So my, I guess the way I characterize my craft is I gravitate to 100-year-old companies and leading and reimagining, transformation opportunities for 100-year-old companies. And most of the companies I've worked at are at least 100-year-old, except McKinsey, which is 99. So I think that kind of qualifies. Yeah.
Well, Sastry, maybe, obviously there's at least millions of people, right, that know who TIAA is. Can you share a little bit more for maybe some of the people in the audience that are less familiar about kind of what you guys do and how you help your clients and customers?
Yeah, no, TIAA, for those of you who don't know TIAA, it was founded in 1918 by Andrew Carnegie. And he founded this company because he realized that teachers and healthcare workers didn't have a pension plan. So it was more to, serve those who serve others. So that was the mission on which TIAA was built. So fast forward, 105 years, we are a pioneer in the retirement space. So we are like the OG when it comes to the, retirement plans for higher ed, for healthcare, for nonprofit sector. So that's our main business. We have a large asset management business. It's called Nuveen. And we manage like $1.4 trillion in AUM, assets under management. So that's our second large business. And then we have wealth management, which is, helping clients achieve their wealth objectives. So it's a B2C and B2B2C. So the first one is more B2B, and then, retirement, because we work with a lot of these institutions, but we help their participants. And then, the asset management is also a pretty large institutional, and there is a B2B2C segment as well. So I think it's a global company. And, we're headquartered in New York, and, most of the C-suite, almost more than half of the C-suite actually joined over the last 4 years, or have assumed different roles since Tashonda Brown Duckett joined as a CEO, and she kind of built the executive team that I'm part of.
So you mentioned a minute ago, you have a history of joining 100-year-old companies to help with transformation, right? And obviously, like, sitting here in 2025, it's increasingly clear AI is going to play a huge role in not just digitizing but fully transforming businesses. Maybe before we go into that, can you talk a little bit about kind of where do you think we're at in the AI hype cycle? Right, I don't think there's many technologies have ever been as hyped as AI, but I think there's probably a little bit more real stuff there than maybe some of the kind of past fads. Yeah, where do you think we are in that hype cycle?
We're still in there's a lot of sizzle and less steak place. There's no other way of explaining it, Evan, because we're in the early stages of impact, and but we have overachieved on the hype side for sure. I think there is obviously enormous potential. There's no question about it, and but I think the gravity of the situation is more towards still I would consider edge cases or sizzle cases than real problems in real businesses that should be solved for, that have scale and things that can be sustained over time. So I think there is a lot of technological innovation. There's no question about it, and then there's definitely a lot of innovation on the models. There's a lot of innovation on how we can integrate on all these good things. But when it comes to real problem solving for businesses, I think we still are in the early stages. As an industry overall. If I think about it, yeah.
One thing I hear from a lot of CIOs I talk to is they say, well, AI is super interesting for sure. It's going to be a thing. I like ChatGPT. I see my kids using it for their homework, but I'm not quite sure where that actually applies or actual business. And is it more of a toy, or is it actually going to have a real impact and kind of change things? I think given, your both your background and your current work today, are there areas where, you've already seen kind of an applied impact, right? That maybe would give some more hope or optimism to maybe some of the skeptics.
So I have this 80-20 rule, Evan, that I keep talking about when it comes to AI. And my belief is that 80% of the jobs in the world will have at least 20% impact by AI. And that 20% of the jobs will have as much as 80% impact by AI. So, of course, we're still going. And this is not just the technical jobs or data science or some of these cool AI problem solvers. This could be anybody, in any function, right? So I guess with that, context in mind, there are real interesting problems that are being solved for. I'll give you a couple of examples within our own environment. We launched our TIAA AI platform, and originally the OG of that was pre-ChatGPT. So we started with when I joined in 2022, it was on Valentine's Day 2022 with lots of love for TIAA. I joined, and then the first partnership we launched was actually with Google in Google AI for call centers. So we started implementing Google AI in various call center operations. Then Q4 happened, 2022, ChatGPT was born, and then the world is different. We have since partnered with a lot of different firms and a lot of different solutions. We launched this platform called Gate, TIAA Gate, for generative AI technology. And that's what we've been putting in the hands of our colleagues. So a couple of good use cases. One is research. So in our asset management space, we are obviously we invest on a lot of different asset classes, all the way from equities to fixed and to real assets to alternatives, etc. So there is a lot of research that our analysts do and our portfolio teams do, and a lot of that is it's manual plus semi-digital. But now we created with our Gate platform, we created a research buddy, which is essentially a digital AI-powered assistant that does a lot of this work. And now it's scanning through so many documents, but not just scanning through documents, but it actually synthesizes it in a generative style where you could get the snippets that you want, that you're looking for. I mean, just like how you do it in ChatGPT, right? So I think that's a powerful use case because it saves so much time for our portfolio management teams that are managing money so that they can actually focus on the money and strategic decisions than just doing a lot of chores of getting insight. So that's a good example of implementation. Same thing with our retirement business. as I said, we have contracts from long time ago in the galaxy, right? So, we have to analyze those contracts. And
you said they're on paper. Is that like where you print out a DocuSign, or how does that
yeah,
work?
like we have digitized all those paper contracts, but imagine like you're calling our, customer service and they have to go through these contracts to answer the questions. It's pretty complicated when you have multiple contracts with us, and you may have, changed jobs multiple times from different universities or different healthcare, firms that you worked at. And now we have to answer the questions, because at the end of the day, Evan is one Evan. We may have like many contracts from many universities or healthcare systems that you were part of. So to answer the question, now imagine AI applied on it, especially with generative AI, where all these documents are securely, synthesized, and the customer care professional is getting input on their, desktop that is so customized and tailored. Now you could say, well, wasn't that possible before? It was possible to study it. It was definitely not possible to synthesize it in the English-like fashion that generative AI technology offers, right? So that's actually a great example. And so we have a couple of those like real examples that we've launched in production now. We also, we have some sizzle use cases as well, to be honest, that we started with. Actually, it's a good use case, but it's more sizzlish than steakish. But all the phishing campaigns that we do in the company, like for cyber, security, we said, you know what, we'll just go away from all these static emails that we used to send, that we would and we would just use generative AI.
Yeah, super smart. Right. It's not synthetic. It's actually real examples now.
And these are like, I'll tell you, man, this is crazy emails that are like so customized, and you would be so inclined to click on the link. Emails that generative AI crafts. Yeah, it's not like a business impact, but it is actually training our colleagues to a level where, this is the bad actors using as well, right? So we're training ourselves up for cybersecurity, and we put this on our TIAA.org website as well. So if you actually go to the website and search for something like, there's a lot of financial jargon. Like you say, what's RMD, required minimum distribution? And then like, what's the difference between traditional and Roth IRA? We have traditional search results from like a classic search. But then next to that, we have gate-powered search results. And you can see for yourself the difference, as a client, right? So as a prospect. So yeah, I think, the opportunities are there. We're still in the very early stages. I am optimistic. There's also a lot of ethical and, governance concerns that we can talk about. But, obviously as a regulated industry, as a financial services firm, we are very, 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 diligent about it. But I do think that the more we solve these real business problems in like these institutions that are like iconic, centuries old, I think the more it'll become really mainstream, like the other technologies that are mainstream now, like this digital collaboration that we are on. Like, you're in Las Vegas and I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are having a very meaningful conversation. That was not possible like 15 years ago, right?
Do you see a world where, every worker has kind of an AI buddy, or like maybe an AI intern that's kind of doing some of the more mundane work that allows people to focus on things that humans are best at?
Yeah, in fact, I like the way you said it, like every worker has an AI buddy, because that is my ambition for TIAA, by the way. So we started TIAA Gate and we said, okay, we're going to give you a My Gate. And My Gate is something that every colleague in the company will eventually have. In fact, we started with 350 colleagues as beta, and they're like super loving it. So now we want to get to like 5,000 by summer and maybe 8,000. My team is going to like hate me saying this on a podcast, but 8,000 by end of this year, colleagues having My Gate as their personal assistant. Because I know my workload better than anybody, because that is what I do. You know your workload. So how cool would it be to have your own AI assistant that has all these great large language models, propelling it in the back end, but you're removed all from all that complexity. You have your own assistant. You can just work with that assistant, train the assistant, be with the assistant. You can even name whatever you want your My Gate to be, and then you just like that's going to be very powerful, right? I mean, like you could actually offload some of the work that you do to the assistant, and then you could focus more on strategic work or learning opportunities to create bigger impact, etc. But just applying now broadly, though, I think the bigger impact is what we are not seeing yet, and this could be a bit controversial to say, but I feel that because it's leveling the playing field. Like imagine the future 3-4 years from now, you have these startups that are coming up that obviously cannot employ a lot of people because they just don't have the investments, but they can employ a lot of agents that are digital in their workforce because that's more easy to do because it's technology. So now you have companies that have more agents and less humans competing with companies that have a lot more humans and some agents. Now, how that's going to evolve and what that competition would look like will actually tell how the world is frankly going to evolve, right? Because while we are focused on, well, will AI take over my job problem statement today, I think it's an important question, obviously. And I do think that you could almost apply that to any previous industrial revolution. When electricity came, everybody who was working on steam engines probably asked the same question. And then there was a chief electricity officer. That was probably the shortest lived C-suite job ever. Like they put electricity and then they were gone. So you could apply that technology, type, question to anything. But I do think that, for AI, the real big question is when workforce is this like human plus AI workforce, how do you win at that point? And how do you compete? And who wins in that race? Because humans, at the end of the day, have a body clock. Agents don't. AI agents don't. They just like 24/7. So how effectively? So these are the more tough questions to contemplate with, and that's what actually makes this a lot more interesting than prior, revolutions of technology.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to imagine like the best companies in 10 years. It's not 0% humans and it's not 0% AI workers. So try to figure out how do we get the best of all worlds is really interesting. One thing that I'll tell you one thing that I personally struggle with, right, as a leader is when it comes to AI transformation is actually not the technology piece, but it's the cultural piece, right? At least I've seen, we have some jobs where people are a little bit resistant, right? They kind of like the craft, what they're doing. They don't really want to use the AI in some areas where it's obviously better. How do you think about kind of transforming the culture of the company, right? The idea that there's some agent you can ask questions to that has better answers than any human, colleague. The idea that an AI might give you some advice, right? You share this example of like the AI buddy, and I was thinking like, I'm very privileged. I have like a executive coach, right? But the executive coach, maybe watches a handful of my town hall presentations, give me some feedback. What if every single person in the company had their AI coach that only cared about helping you improve as an employee, right? That would be a great thing. However, I think, one barrier to that is going to be just, it's a big change in how we work, right? Having some AI give you critical feedback or help you do your job. That's like not what we've been doing for the last 20 years. So how do you think about kind of evolving the culture, getting people comfortable with that, helping people focus on the opportunity and maybe kind of remove some of the unnecessary anxieties? Like anything you've seen effective or any advice you give to other, technology leaders out there about how to kind of help the organization move and kind of, get the best of the new parts of this new technology world?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think my comment earlier, Evan, on the whole COVID-driven digital transformation, that was largely, cultural, right? Actually out of necessity. That we had to we had no option, we had to just overnight digital enable the whole firm, whichever firm you worked at, and we had to like collaborate digitally. So I think, but culturally we had no option at that point, so we had to do it. Now here in this situation, we do have flexibility. Every company can choose to decide, how they do it, but what pace and all that. But at the end of the day, to go back to your third, like you would have the utopian side and then the dystopian side and then the middle side. I do think that, every company in its culture has these, early adopters and like they're like excited about technology adoption, and then they're like like I see in my own company, like, a lot of people that fall in that category. A third for sure in AI adoption. And then there's a third that have this very skeptical view of, well, is this like Skynet happening? Is this Minority Report? Like, no, this is like, we've seen this movie before. It's not going to actually scale to the level that these geeks are all hyping it about, right? I mean, like, there's that. And then there's like the middle. So I do think that, over time, it will all even out and become mainstream, like we've seen with other technologies. Culturally, how much access do you give to colleagues to AI in an unintimidating way, so that people get comfortable? If we give them these tools, make them learn, make them comfortable, in leveraging it, regardless of their craft. I think that's definitely a big cultural step, right? And then, honestly, giving them access to collaborate more broadly. Like in our firm, we started this thing called Guild Network. So where we have craft-based guilds. So one of the highest subscription guild, take a guess, is artificial intelligence. So, so we have like 4,000 members in our guild network, and a majority of them are in the AI guild. And so this is like, doesn't matter what you do in your day job, you have access to this. You can learn. You can, change your craft if you want to as well. We give guild gigs. So like, you could major in your current job, but you could do it in gigs, and then like you do minor. That way, at least the skills you're learning, you can actually apply to, and then you could have mobility. So I think the more we give like that level of access to people, culturally, that would be quite useful.
From a culture perspective, I love the guild idea, right? Not just for the actual, work and training, but even to communicate to employees, hey, we care about investing into you, right? We care about you learning about new technologies, right? I think that's a great signal, right? That I think every company aspires to send, right? But they don't, sometimes they don't mean it. Sometimes they don't, it's not unclear. So you guys have done a great job of kind of building that, I think, culturally, right? And you have to imagine for the next generation of leaders at TIAA that kind of come up through these programs, right? They're going to help propagate that and kind of, double down. So I appreciate you sharing that example.
No, absolutely. And I think it's also like giving them the tools too, right? Because I'll be honest. I mean, every CIO struggled with this decision, Evan. Like when ChatGPT came, all the early adopters obviously wanted ChatGPT to be available inside the company. And it has all kinds of security issues, right? I mean, we can't so I chose to, from any corporate device, you cannot access any of these tools on the internet. Okay, because we are not going to let you put private information, company information into these. So we made, me and our legal risk and compliance officer, we made the decision. We sent a communication. We blocked everything. Well, then how do you AI enable the enterprise if you don't give them access to these fundamentally basic tools that are out there in their personal lives? Well, you're going to have your own secure, tool for the enterprise, and that's why we built Gate, and we have given them MyGate, and now they can confidently and securely have their like ChatGPT plus level tool, which actually has all kinds of LLMs behind it, that is secure and that has been built with responsible AI, codified into it. They're comfortably, now leveraging that. So I think the more we can give them the tools, like our associates and colleagues, the more I think we will like foster almost like a citizen innovation, right, in the company, like where you've democratized innovation to a level where everybody has a tool and they can think about, what impact they want to make, right?
I'm going to ask you to kind of take out your AI crystal ball, which I think you keep somewhere in your office there. If you're looking, 5-10 years in the future, what do you see as kind of some of the most exciting ways you think AI is going to transform your industry, kind of specifically things that maybe some of your peers may underestimate, or things that, other CIOs may consider science fiction? What do you think people are kind of underestimating, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, I think, as a fellow Star Wars enthusiast, I'll probably start with the Yoda quote for you. That would be AI or ain't. There is no try. I think every company will will have AI in their core. I think the biggest difference I hope I believe that AI will make is in the operational aspects of companies, at least these like large old companies, right? Because you know just like how internet came and digitized a lot of the physical aspects of the world, like we don't stand in the line like a big teller line with like a token in our hand anymore, right? I mean, like we go onto the phone and get stuff done, right? So I do think that some of those core operational aspects that are like very consuming, I do think that over time they will get AI augmented. So that's one. There will be definitely, you know, better ways of reaching out to your customers and delighting your customers with your products, because just it opens up range of opportunities to like reach out. I mean, like we're already talking actively about is search is SEO still a thing, for instance, right? Like there's like new market opportunities that will come out through this from a product penetration point of view. But then of course the other big prize would be like AI powered products that we can't even imagine today because we just don't have that level of. So if I were to use my I guess the Yoda crystal ball, I hope that there will be new products that we can't think of today, that not technological products but real business products that would come out, just like how sharing economy came and gig economy came. That was not even an economy before, right? So I hope there are new opportunities like that. Yeah.
All right, so unfortunately we only got 2 or 3 minutes left, so we're gonna do kind of a quick lightning round. So I'm looking for your one tweet response for questions that are impossible to answer in one tweet. So just forgive me in advance, and hopefully you'll talk to me again in the future. So first question is, how do you think companies should measure the success of a CIO?
I think the how is technology powering the business growth? How is technology fueling innovation and client impact? And more importantly, how is it strengthening the core of the business? I think those are the 3 legs of the stool, I would say, to measure the success of a CIO.
What kind of advice do you wish someone told you when you first got into a technology leadership role, or maybe first became a technology leader?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I had actually the advice. So, we talked about platforms, processes, and people. It's like a classic 3 Ps. And one of my mentors said, when you take a leadership role in tech, it's all about people, people, people. So to me, that's the advice. At the end of the day, we could talk all about AI, but at the end of the day, the human element of leadership, there's nothing more important than that in any career, and that applies to technology leadership careers as well.
What's a book you've read that's had a big impact on you? Whether it's Star Wars or not. Just kidding.
Definitely Star Wars. I think there's a few books that I really love. The World is Flat is a book that kind of opened my aperture quite a bit, early on. That's one. There is My Life in Full is another book that I really love. This is and then Hit Refresh is another book I like. I mean, these are obviously like CEOs and technologists that wrote the books, but I'm inspired by when you can tell a bold story in an old company and how you refresh things. I think that's kind of my gravity point anyways. So you could see why I like these books, because they have a common thread amongst them. Yeah.
What's an upcoming technology that you're personally most excited about?
Quantum. I do think that we've talked about it quite a bit, just like the world talked about AI for a long time.
I mean, I got some books written here in the 50s that were talking about AI, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, all the way going back to the Turing test, right? So I think quantum, same thing, quantum mechanics and quantum physics, we've talked about it a long time. I do think that the impact is still awaited. And of course, there's progress made. I was just reading, there's a 75 qubit, quantum computer that's being used to train models in China. I mean, imagine putting the power of quantum and AI together, and you're training these models and unleashing them. And that's or Majorana one, that Microsoft obviously released, that's more a topical compute. So I think quantum is like what I'm more excited about. Like I'm actually personally like in my own learning journey, I'm spending a lot more time just studying, the possibilities of quantum and when the quantum, rises. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. We'll maybe stick on the science fiction thread here. What do you think is going to be true about AI's future impact to the world, beyond just business, that most people would consider science fiction today?
I hope we won't have flying cars anytime soon, like from the science fiction movies. I actually, this is where I really hope that AI actually helps our day-to-day chores. Like how cool would it be to really have, robotic, helpers beyond like digital assistants, like actual physical. My wife, Debbie, always says this, like, dude, all the work that you do in AI, can you actually do this? Like so that we can get more time for ourselves. I think that's like, I hope that it actually helps for the good of the society. Hopefully, it releases more time from people that they can actually build a better human connection. That's my hope. But then, of course, it could also become like the cell phone where family dinners are happening with kids on the cell phone, not even making eye contact. So I think it's more to be seen on the silver screen. Yeah.
Well, Sastry, it's so great to see you, and thank you for making time. Hopefully we can chat again soon.
Blessed. Thanks for having me, Evan.
That was Sastry Durvasula, Chief Operating, Information, and Digital Officer at TIAA.
Thanks for listening to Enterprise AI Innovators. I'm Sam Motamedi, the General Partner at Greylock Partners.
And I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI. Please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Learn more about enterprise AI transformation at enterprisesoftware.blog.
This show is produced by Josh Meir. See you next time.